Now, zombie games are a category of games that I actually enjoy quite a lot. And to be quite honest with you, it is oversaturated. Yes, there are a lot of zombie games out there, especially in the early 2000s, especially with movies as well, and games. There is a lot of zombie games. Call of Duty Zombies, Left 4 Dead, Dying Light, and many others that have done their spin on zombies and how zombies are. Now, I like zombie games. They're fun. They do their different thing. Yes, the main focus is the zombies, but they all have different spins. Call of Duty Zombies is a round-based zombies. You go up and you go for a round base, and each round will get harder and guns will get weaker, making you play strategically and having to camp or having to run around zombies and stuff like that. Dying Light, games like Dying Light, it's just hordes and hordes and hordes coming towards you, and you've got to try and batter your way through them and survive and try and get to the safe room at the other side of the map, which is a fun game mode to play. And then you have Dying Light. Now, Dying Light came out of nowhere almost, and it's a new type of sort of zombie, parkour zombie game. This game utilizes parkour like crazy. In fact, I do think some of the parkour is quite sluggish, but once you get used to the whole parkour, once you get used to the controls and stuff like that, I'd preferably say play it on PC because the controls are way more easier on PC, and it's easier to jump on things and stuff like. I feel like on console it can be a bit sluggish, but on PC it is incredible to play, and you'll have a lot of fun doing so. However, Dying Light launched, I think, in 2015, and it blew people away. It was, again, one of the most incredible games just out of nowhere. And parkour and zombies hadn't really been looked at together before. And it's a bit of a weird combination, yes. It's one of them games that you look at and you think, parkour and zombies? I've never seen that before. However, it worked very well. In fact, it worked extremely well. And yeah, Dying Light became very popular and loads of people loved it. The story is probably about 20 hours, something like that. Dying Light 1, or Dying Light Good Night, Good Luck, is it called? And this game, again, blew up very quickly, and people enjoyed it. And, again, it starred, I think the main character was Kyle Crane, if I remember correctly, and you were sent by the GRE, which is like the government organization to contain or have a look at the virus. Actually, I think you were after files from I can't remember who, but you were after files for the GRE. You dropped in, spoilers this is, from a parachute, and you landed in, obviously, I think Ryzen, is it Ryson? I think that's the guy, Ryson, I think, something like that. This guy is essentially, I think he was an ex-GRE, but he found the truth or something, and he's been hiding out with soldiers, his own soldiers that he's put together. Obviously, you drop down, Ryson's right-hand man, pretty much slave, finds you dropped. Obviously, they start kicking you and shit like that. Kyle Crane shoots them, and there you go. That's the intro to the story, and Kyle Crane ends up getting infected and bitten. Now, obviously, this was a pretty good start to a game, to be honest with you. It kind of introduces you to where on earth you've gone, and it introduces you also to what the shit you're about to get into. Now, again, because Dying Light utilizes parkour quite a lot, you're not going to really experience zombies as much as many other games, unless you're obviously down on the ground. Then yes, you will experience a lot of zombies. It's a different type of game, and it's a more trying to tell you keep to a high ground, because your chances of survival are a lot better jumping from rooftop to rooftop than walking street to street, and that's a great thing. I enjoy that. That is what I like about Dying Light 1. Dying Light 1, again, that's why it captured a lot of people, because it's a different type of game, and there's not many games that actually do what Dying Light do, even today. Parkour and zombies. It's a mixture of games that you don't really see a hell of a lot of these days. Now, Dying Light 2 launched as well. Now, Dying Light 2, in my opinion, didn't really feel like Dying Light. It still had the parkour and stuff like that, but it just felt weak. Now, again, I don't think it's a bad game, and I have finished it. I finished it a few years ago now, like 2 or so years ago. So I can't remember a hell of a lot what happened. However, it is a fun game. It starts off, I think you play as a character called Aiden Aiden, I think. And obviously you are, I can't remember what you've been having experiments. I think you're looking for your sister or something like that. Now, again, the game, I feel like it's heavily parkour. Dying Light 2, heavily parkour. And that, again, that's not a bad thing. Now I don't know where actually, I don't know where it's set in Dying Light 2. I think it's set in the same place as Dying Light 1. But Dying Light 2 is set in Castor Woods, overrun by a tourist destination overrun. It just says Europe it takes place in. Now, Dying Light 1 took place in in Haran, which is in, I think, Turkey. I think it's set in the game, in a fictional place called Haran. Now, it looked very cool, Dying Light. It's like a contained part of Haran that they've contained the virus in. And obviously there's supply drops as well with it, which obviously you can go out and get the supply drops and, well, you earn level up and you level up with different sort of things and you can take them back to your apartment. You're actually staying in this apartment in the first half of the game anyway. There's 2 halves to the game. You're staying in this apartment, which you've sort of barricaded and slapped together to create a safe space for people. And obviously they bring in people who are infected and people who are off the streets who haven't got much to go for, and they bring them in and give them a place to live while this virus is on. Now, Dying Light 1, at least, is an incredible game. I think the game, there's a lot of game modes as well for it, and stuff like that. There's the prison, which is a pretty hard thing to get through. And it did stuff that I actually like what it does. And Kyle Crane was a pretty likable character. He did some stupid stuff, yeah, and I'm sure if it didn't actually show up in the first place, I'm sure things would probably have gone a little bit better for a lot of the people in the game. Not going to spoil it if anyone hasn't played. Well, I've kind of just told you, but that's within like the first 10 minutes of the gameplay, so it's not really much spoiling anything. There's 2 parts to the game. That's kind of all. I wouldn't really say it's a spoil. But yeah, it's a solid game. And again, parkour and zombies is a type of game that I'd never seen before, but it works very well together. It works incredibly well together, in fact. And I think if you are looking for a game to play and you've never touched Dying Light, or you don't really touch zombie games because, well, they're oversaturated, which they are. It's a game, unfortunately. It's a game genre, I guess, that has, especially in the early 2000s, and late 2000s as well, like late 2010s and stuff like that, developers just didn't care. They were releasing zombies, and you got really half-assed zombie games. And again, with movies as well, they didn't really let go. There was zombies movies. There's loads of zombie movies out there. It's like World War II games and stuff like that. It's a market there, or a genre of games that is kind of, it's been done so many times that most of the time it's not boring, but it's just like, well, we've already played this style of game before, type of thing. But Dying Light did something different with that. Introducing parkour again is probably one of the coolest things I've seen with a zombie game. Now back to Dying Light 2. Now Dying Light 2's parkour felt a little bit more crazier than... Now in Dying Light there's a logic issue, seems to be anyway. You can actually jump off any height building. I don't know if they patched this in the newer Dying Light. I think they did, I'm not too sure. However, you can actually jump from any height building on as long as you hit a car or a van on the ground, you will survive. Yeah, I think logic went out of the window with that one, which is very unfortunate. Now, Dying Light 2, again, back to that, was a pretty good game. I genuinely liked it. Now, obviously, it got a fair bit of hate. Now, it was obviously set in a different place. It's not set in Harran, which, fair enough, I'm not expecting it to be set in Harran. A fresh place is a good thing. It gives people time to actually look at something different. I'm sure if it was Harran again, I wouldn't be 100% bored, but it would be pretty boring after a while. Now, this is years after the zombies. I can't exactly tell when it was. I think like 50 years, something like that. I don't know. After the zombie apocalypse. And again, the game itself looks really good. The characters, everything that looks really good. The main thing I hate about it is just how the game looks. In my opinion anyway, it looks very medieval type. You know, parts of the game look very medieval. And in fact, I think it looks a little too worn down in some cases. You know, again, obviously parts of a city and parts of stuff like this, if they haven't been touched in a very long time, and the world hasn't been touched in a long time, yeah, things are going to start decaying. Buildings are going to start falling. Stuff like that is going to start this and this, because no one's there to maintain them and stuff like that. That is very true. However, I do feel like it's a little bit too fast for Dying Light, I think. I can't remember much about that game. There wasn't any weapons in Dying Light 2. There wasn't Dying Light 1. Now, the weapons, obviously, it was not incredibly easy to use them. They did feel very stiff, the weapons. No, I'm not saying they were bad. Maybe that was a design choice to make them a little bit stiffer, so you wouldn't just go running and gunning like crazy. But yeah, you can get guns in the game pretty easy, and quite early on, to be honest with you. You start off with a pistol, and then you can work yourself up pretty quickly with shotguns and stuff like that. Normally, towards the later in the game, you end up acquiring, obviously, more weapons and stuff like that. Now, again, I do think it's a good thing. I like the fact that there's guns. It's like from the Harran police and stuff like that. They have found them, which is a good thing. It's cool. It adds realism to the game. Now, Dying Light 2, you can't have... Actually, no, I think there is one gun in the game. But I don't think there is actually any proper guns in the game. Now, I don't know why this decision was implemented, which I'm sure there's a reason for the fact of it being implemented. But, yeah, it's one of them things you look at and it's like, okay, there's no guns. I got to use more tools and more weapons differently and fight a lot more different. And again, that added to it. Now, Dying Light has probably some of the scariest zombie factions in the actual series, I guess. Volatiles. Now, volatiles are this thing. They are not something you want to mess with. These are big motherfuckers. You'll see them quite early on in the game. They only really come out at nighttime, and these things are pretty beefy. They are pretty scary as well. Nighttime, in general speaking, within Dying Light is not something you want to go out unless you are risking your death like crazy. in both games, to be honest. Although I feel like in Dying Light 1 it was a lot more scary and actually scared you a lot more. In Dying Light 2, they implemented a thing that if you can't be in dark too much, or you turn into, I think a volatile you turn into. So you have to, and volatiles it's like the kryptonite against volatiles is UV light. And that's what you have to use quite a lot in Dying Light 2 as well on yourself to stop yourself turning the UV light. And yeah, it's again, if you are surrounded by volatiles, it's a beautiful thing. Just throw a UV light on the ground and they just stop coming towards you. Now, Dying Light has a new game coming soon, which I'm very happy to see. Now, I don't know when it's coming. It hasn't actually been announced, I don't think. Maybe 2026, I'm estimating it to come out. 2026, I'd be very surprised if it actually came out next year, but who actually knows? It's called Dying Light the Beast. Now, this thing obviously was revealed at Gamescom yesterday, and a lot of people are happy about this, and they're glad that we're finally getting something new. Dying Light 2, in my opinion, looking at the Steam charts, looking at everything like that, it just feels like it's back. It doesn't feel like it's going forward, Dying Light 2. And Dying Light 1 still has quite a healthy player base, I think. Dying Light 2 has 4,000 players currently on it, and a max 24-hour peak of 10,000 players. It's still very active. To say this game is almost way over 10 years old now. No, nearly 10 years old, should I say. It's really cool to see people actually playing this game still and putting time into it. And again, great game. Dying Light 2 hasn't got as many players. It's got about 3,000 players playing it right now, and a max peak of 5,600 players. And again, obviously it had a higher player count of 200,000 compared to 40,000 with Dying Light 1. It's still, Dying Light 1 had a very good time, especially on console as well, of keeping up. It did very well on console. And again, it's kept quite a strong fan base. That's how they've been able to do very well with the game over these years. And a lot of people are very happy to see another Dying Light in the series. Heck, I am too. And it's coming soon with a character that a lot of people love. So this is what it says on the Steam store page. Dying Light the Beast is a thrilling standalone zombie adventure set in a tightly crafted rural region. Play as Kyle Crane, a legendary hero who breaks free after years of brutal experiments. Now he must realize that there's more at stake than just revenge. Now, this is a spoiler at this part, talking about the end of Dying Light 1 here. Now, Dying Light 1, properly the end, and this is the following end. Now, if you actually play the game towards the end of Dying Light, you fight Rice, you kill Rice, you kill him on top of the tower, on top of his tower, on top of his apartment. Yeah, you kill him while the GRE is in the helicopter. And of course, you run to get the samples. You run to the countryside where the following starts. Now, the following, you are trying to find a cure. You're supposed to meet with these sort of volatile people who say they know a cure. Anyway, run past that, all of that. Towards the end of the game, you have two options from what I remember. You can either nuke, you can get the code for a nuclear warhead, or you meet with this sort of thing, this volatile, like the main volatile of this group, and she gives you this sort of potion thing and forces you to drink it, and then you obviously go crazy on that motherfucker, run out towards the sewer system while you're changing into a volatile. and the game ends, or the following ends, of you opening up a drain cover outside of Haran, into the newer city, and becoming a volatile in front of a family and some kids. And that is where the game ends. Now, obviously, people have spiraled to what actually happens after this. Does Kyle Crane die? Does Kyle Crane survive? What exactly happens to Kyle Crane? And obviously, people have been asking that for a while. Now, I don't know if this is going to follow on from that and Kyle Crane is going to be a volatile, or is this going to be set a little bit differently on a different story? I don't know. It'd be cool to kind of have you as a volatile and you're going to watch out that you're going to turn or something like that. Now, I don't know. Again, this is not set in Turkey or near Haran. It doesn't say much about it, to be quite honest with you. Although it would be cool to see it quite near there. And again, judging from it says experiments is got out and he's broke free. Who breaks free after experiments of years of brutal experiments. I'm presuming he still maybe can turn into a volatile because it makes more sense. Like, they've done experiments on him because maybe they've captured him instead of killing him. And they've decided to do all sorts of experiments on him to try and see what volatiles are and what this virus is and stuff like this. Now, I don't know if it's the GRE who have done that or whatever, but it's pretty cool to see. Now, again, this game doesn't really have an announcement, but looking from some of the images, it looks like it might be set in parts of Haran. One of the first images, anyway, looks like Haran. Now, again, I don't know what this is going to be set in. From one of the images, it looks like a forest at nighttime surrounded by zombies. It looks like there may be a new type of zombie, like a face jumper or whatever. I don't know exactly, but this game looks very cool from what I've seen of it. They have released... I don't know, man. I'm really happy to see how this game turns out. Again, there is no release date for this as of yet. I'm presuming this is going to probably release 2026. That's the only thing that actually makes sense to release it then. But again, I'm not entirely sure when it's going to release. I don't even think it has a release date. I think it just says 2020. It just said, people are just saying 2026 we could see this game. I'm not really too bothered as long as the game's solid and the story's good. We got, again, one of the most notable and one of, arguably, in the community of Dying Light, one of the greatest characters within the game series. So I'm very happy to see this. And again, I really hope the story is incredible and they don't shy away from the grittiness that Dying Light 1 did.